What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I'm here with Anthony, Lori, and Mike. And today we are playing catch up with our birthday episodes, and this one was Anthony's choice. So he chose the 1980 sci-fi film Battle Beyond the Stars.
Sci-fi classic.
Classic. Yes, get that right.
Battle
sci-fi
Beyond the Stars.
classic. I had never heard of this movie before. I had never seen this movie before. So today today was my first entree into this film, and I have some things to say.
All right. First of all, as the person who started the birthday viewings with Howard the Duck and how people got on me about the quality of Howard the Duck, I would like to applaud Anthony for choosing this particular movie, which makes Howard the Duck look like Infinity War, and that makes me feel so much. Makes me feel good in my heart to know that Howard the Duck is no longer on the bottom. I mean,
when did Howard the Duck come out?
80s.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay, so imagine the changes in 60 years of special effects from 80 to 86.
Look, I just went down and checked off when I saw a trope. Gratuitous ass shot, check. Gratuitous boob shot, check. Gratuitous old man fighting, either getting shot, stabbed, or wounded, or dying of a heart attack, check.
Gratuitous bikini with hand like
oh my. Okay, we're gonna get into all of that because I have thoughts.
I love this. Look, this is what I'm with it. This movie brought me back to like my 7th or 8th grade self, watching this movie on cable and just loving every second of it. This movie and The Last Starfighter, those two movies were like my childhood.
I'm the same way. The Last Starfighter, this movie, and Enemy Mine are like
Enemy Mine, yeah.
Enemy Mine is awesome.
Yeah, those are that's my childhood. I mean, not counting, Star Wars and Star Trek and but these movies are like the core of what makes me a sci-fi fan.
I mean, this is like the precursor to like Babylon 5 and all those sci-fi channel shows. These are precursors to that.
I can see that with the smart ass ship talking back to I can definitely see it. It was funny, but I think in 1980 I was only 5, so I'm pretty sure I can be like maybe 95% positive my father probably would have seen that movie because my dad was into like sci-fi and all that stuff. That's kind of where I came into it. But watching it for the first time as a 46-year-old in 2021 and seeing all the things that are problematic about this film, it was hard. I was like, okay, I got to keep an open mind. It's 1980s, but my daughter was sitting downstairs with me on the couch and she's on her phone, and every once in a while she turned around like, what the fuck? What is it? What? There was a lot of that going on.
You have to remember it was 1980. You got to take it in context.
I know.
And I'm not saying this stuff is right because I'm watching it and I'm sitting there thinking, Hanako's going to have some problems. That's all I'm thinking. Yep, Hanako's have a problem with that.
At least there weren't any stereotypical Asian characters in this, so there's that.
This is true.
There were no POCs in this film.
There was a reptile, but no POCs.
Just don't let her watch Romancing the Stone because then she will probably move out. I mean, come on, that's even worse.
But I've seen Romancing the Stone.
Yes, have you seen it?
But okay. Anyway, let's get into it. Anthony, since you chose the movie, tell us a little bit about the synopsis and why you chose this movie.
Okay, so I'm going to do that in reverse order.
Okay.
There were a plethora of movies I could have chosen that probably would have been like safer choices, like The Matrix, Star Wars, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I mean, these are movies that are like in my upper echelon of movies, but the one that I don't ever really talk about because I know people don't really know about it or haven't seen it is Battle Beyond the Stars. Mm-hmm. And it is a gem of a film. I mean, it has some problems. But when you're young and you're watching TV and like Mike said, it was on, a lot. And like I think my dad had watched it and I think I watched it with him for the first time. It's very entertaining. If you know anything about Roger Corman, you know that you've probably seen some of the scenes and some of the other stuff in there, the other movies, because he was cheap. This movie came out after Star Wars. And Roger Corman before that had produced some movies and they were all low budget films. And he got a $2 million budget for this one, which for him is a lot of fucking money. And most of that money went to pay George Papard and Robert Vaughn.
And John Saxon probably.
Yeah, and he didn't even have enough money for the sci-fi places. Not the special effects houses he went to. He was like, "Can you do this movie?" They're like, "How much you got?" I got $2 million budget, but half of it has gone to Robert Saxon, George Papard, and Robert Vaughn. Now we can't do it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, and long story short, he did what George Lucas did. He's like, "Fuck it, I'll just make my own science fiction special effects house, and we'll do it that way." Speaking of the cast, there's so many people, that we know and love that come out of this movie, like Sybil Danning, George Papard, John Saxon, Richard Thomas from the Waltons, Robert Vaughn, Julia Duffy is in there. It's like her first movie. Kathy Griffin is an extra in the background.
Wait, what?
Yes. Kathy Griffin is an extra. That. You
Everybody missed it too.
Everybody's in this movie. It's awesome.
Earl Bowen. Bowen, who's like
Earl Bowen is in it. Yeah, good character actor. Behind the scenes, you had Roger Corman, of course. Bill Paxton was actually a painter and carpenter on the set.
Really?
He was hired by his good friend, James Cameron, who was also on this. Now, James Cameron is very interesting because he started out as building the models. And one model in particular he's famous for is the ship, the Corsair, Nell. And he was like, "Oh, wait. Nell is the AI on the ship, and it's a female." And he's like,
"You mean the ovary ship?"
Well, not just that, but the ship has
those
boobs.
Aren't ovaries.
The ship has boobs.
That ship has boobs.
The ship has boobs.
Ship got body.
I mean, I understand it, but if you look at the ship when it's flying like front, I was like, it's a giant ovary. And if you go to the internet and pull up a photo of ovaries, like the little drawing that they usually put in the science books, it looks exactly like that fucking ship.
Yeah, but his intention was to give it boobs in the front. And it has boobs. And they liked it. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll go with that." So he was the model builder. They had the person who was supposed to do the miniature photography for some of their scenes. That person quit. And he was like, "I can do it," even though he had never done it before. So he joined the special effects team. And then the art director quit. And they came like, "Do you want to be the art director?" He's like, "Sure, I'll be the art director." So he went from building the models to the art director for the film. But that also led him to, Terminator, Alien, all that stuff that came later. He found some really good relationships. You mentioned Earl Bowen. He had him in Terminator. In Terminator 2, he shows up. I mean, the movie, to me, I think, is just a gem. I mean, it does have some problems, but it's a gem. And it had the unlikely circumstance. When Star Wars came out in 1977, it was huge. I mean, it was huge. So everybody, all the studios, all the writers, all the directors, they all wanted their Star Wars. This was Roger Corman's attempt at cashing in on that whole movement, as you might say. The story is based on Akira Kurosawa's Shishinin no Samurai, which is basically Magnificent Seven. Okay. So it's a Magnificent Seven story, is what it is.
And they're called Akirans.
And yes, no, Akira.
Akira.
So the planet is Akir, and the people from the planet are Akira, which is in honor of him. So John Saxon was it John Saxon?
Yes.
Yeah, John Saxon was Sador, who leads the Malmori, which is a race of mutants. And John Saxon has this big ship that has this cannon, which will remind you of like the Death Star, that could just blow planets up. And so he's going around threatening planets to conquer them. He comes to Akir and he threatens them and gives them 7 cycles or raisings of their red giant sun, which I'm not going to get into the science of a planet orbiting a red giant. That would be like Kryptonians, but whatever. So, there's that, and he threatens him. He's like, I'm going to come back basically in 7 days, and I'm going to either you join me or I'm going to wipe you out. So this farm boy, Richard Thomas, who's Shad, not Chad, but Shad. He is given a task by Zed the Corsair, because they are, of course, a peaceful people, the Varda. They follow the Varda, which has these rules I haven't still quite worked out, because I swear it changes every time I watch it. Wait, was that the first rule or was that the second rule? Oh, wait, was that the third rule or the first rule?
Let me tell you, every time they mentioned the Varda, I was like, just shut up about the Varda, because y'all don't even know what the Varda is. Even at the end of the movie, when Nell, the spaceship, gets her memory jam, she was like, wait, was that the first rule or was that the second rule? I'm like, we don't know. We haven't known the whole movie.
And so since they're non-violent people, they don't have weapons, but they have this ship, which, is a Corsair, which is pretty heavily armored. But, who knows what happened to their race. So he's given a quest. I like quests. He's given a quest to go and get some help to help them, defend themselves against the invasion by Sador and the Malmori mutants or whatever. And so he goes on this adventure, this quest, and he comes across some people and he puts together a ragtag group of mercenaries, quote unquote. One being George Papard, who is the cowboy, who we assume is from Earth. He says he's
B.A. Baracus.
He is from Earth. He said he's from Earth. So yeah.
That's B.A. Baracus in space.
No, Hannibal.
That's all.
That's Hannibal.
I mean, Hannibal. Yeah, Hannibal. I was like, oh, God.
Unfortunately, his introduction, we introduced with him with a side view of his ship, and there's a Confederate flag, which, in my defense, I don't remember ever seeing a Confederate flag.
It's there. It's big as day.
But it's there, and you never see it again. So that I knew, I was like, Hanukkah is going to.
But you didn't have to see it, because every time he opened his mouth, you knew what demographic he was representing. He was a good old Southern white boy. I mean, he wasn't.
Yeah.
I think Mike made the comment before we started recording. He was like, well, at least he wasn't racist. I was like, there really wasn't anything to be racist against. You had white people and you had aliens, and that was pretty much it.
And he was okay with the aliens. He was okay with everybody.
Does it look white?
But he was cool because he had the coolest utility belt, which that man would have been envious of.
My husband actually looked it up. He was like,
a utility belt with an ice maker.
Ice maker. My daughter looked like, what the
do you want it on the rocks or do you want it neat? He was ready. He was ready for every circumstance.
It had scotch in it. I'm like, yes, sir. I like yours. Okay.
No, the point, at one point, when it gets down to the nitty gritty, and he just does straight, scotch. She goes, you forgot the ice and soda. He goes, no, I didn't. I was like, oh yeah, now it's a party.
Yeah.
That utility belt.
Oh my gosh, everything.
Oh my God. I was like, wait, when he was sitting there pouring it, I was like, okay, he is actually pouring alcohol. Then I hear clink, clink. I was like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me there's an ice maker in the belt? Like, where does that come from? I'm almost scared to, like, where does the water come from that you make the ice with? I'm a little worried.
It's like the suits they have in Dune. It takes his body moisture, it filters it, and it puts it in the ice maker.
The alcohol sterilizes.
It's filtered innocent alcohol. What are you worried about? It's fine. It just gets Scotch gold. You don't worry about that.
But the first part of his quest he's given Shad is he has to go to find Dr. Hephaestus, which Zed tells him is an armorer. He can give him weapons that he needs and point him in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm ready for this part.
So he goes to Dr. Hephaestus' station. He gets basically captured, and Dr. Hephaestus wants him to stay and make babies with his daughter. Prepare the conjugal. What did you say? Prepare the conjugal chamber.
I lost. I had to leave the room. I'm sorry.
First of all,
so hard. I had to leave the room.
First of all, let's talk about the fact that Dr. Hephaestus has, I don't know if we want to say transitioned or I don't know what happened to his human body.
Now he's just a brain.
Now he's just an android with his human head, and apparently still his brain functions and his knowledge and everything. His daughter has only been surrounded by androids her whole life. Like, she doesn't know about the other planets. She doesn't know about human interactions. It's very weird. And then when Shad goes to talk to him about why he's there, he's trying to get people to help defend his planet from, and the dude is like, yeah, no, I know what you're here for, but I could offer you something so much better. This station was built for a lot of people, and it's very lonely here. So I want you to stay here and reproduce with my daughter. And yeah, you'll be happy. And I was just sitting there like, oh, we're going here today. Okay, we're going to go here. So you're just offering up your daughter, who again has never encountered another human being in her life except for her father. That also makes me question, okay, where's her mother? Because she says specifically she's never met another human being except for her father. Where's her mother? Then you're going to just put her in the conjugal chamber with this guy she's only known for like 5 minutes, and they're supposed to just reproduce, and this is supposed to be okay. I was like,
okay, so playing devil's advocate, how many human males do you think they encounter at that station on a regular basis?
She said she's never seen another human being.
Exactly. And her father's probably like, oh God, he's like, all right, I don't care. First guy I see, I don't care what he looks like, you having babies with him, because we got to get this popping, because you're not getting any younger. I'm not saying it's right. And shout out to the robots for doing like picture perfect, like robot, like breakdancing moves. Like some of those dudes were killing it. Like, they're like, whoop, whoop. I was like, okay, shit. And shout out to Richard Thomas and Shad for being in one of the precursors to a sex chair with like all the handcuffs and like neck cuffs and stuff. Like, I guess he was gonna make sure that he wasn't going anywhere.
How about shout out to Richard Thomas's character Shad for being like, no, this is not what we're gonna do. You are not gonna kidnap me and force me to mate with her just because you're lonely. Absolutely not.
And give him credit for trying to get her to come with him. Mm-hmm. He's telling her this wonderful story and whatnot, and he's like touching her face. He's literally trying to seduce her and be like, you can come with me. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, okay, well, bye.
You come with me, baby.
And what does she do? She comes anyway in her own ship. So
didn't even tell her daddy bye. No. So that's actually right there.
Yeah, but where Shad's priorities are, because what was the first thing he said to her? no weapons.
Right.
Like, really? No weapons.
Look, the way that Shad in general reacted to women in this movie was hysterical. We'll get to the Valkyrie later. But he basically rams a game on this girl. And she's sitting there going, you know what? I think I might want some of that. Next thing you know, she's on the ship.
Okay, so we'll consider her his first recruit. And then he's directed to a planet, I guess, similar to Mos Eisley, with the, scum of the earth, the villainous mercenaries all gathered there. He gets there and there's nobody there. They're all gone. The only person there is Robert Vaughn, who plays Gelt. Gelt is surrounded by all this money and wealth, and he's like, yeah, I can't spend it because I'm basically a wanted man everywhere.
No. You are skipping ahead. No, we are not doing this. We are not skipping ahead. So first of all, Shad has to go underground because that's apparently where all of the people of the planet have retreated to, because there's like a lot of turbulence and lightning and storms on the surface. So he gets down there. He approaches this kind of console that has like all these buttons and neon lights, and he starts pushing buttons. First of all, who starts just pushing buttons on a machine that you don't know what it does on a planet that you're not sure about? Okay, so he starts pushing the buttons and the neon lights start lighting up, and it lights in different in two like foreign languages. And then at the top, it's, what did it says?
Drug dispenser or something.
Yeah, it basically dispenses. It was like dial for drugs, or dial for drugs,
yeah,
dial
like
a drug or something like that. And he's sitting there looking at it, and he presses some buttons, and then he's about to leave, and the thing disperses some pills. He picks it up, and he's about to put the pill in his mouth, and I'm like, stupid, don't do that. You don't know what those pills do. You don't know what kind of effect they're going to have on you, your human or your Akir body. So right before he, puts it in his mouth, he sits it down. He goes to the next console, does the same thing, presses some buttons, and this one is like dial a date. So then it does this thing where it starts showing you not
your
pictures,
different
but
options.
Yes, your different options for a date. So you've got these women who are like scantily clad, and they're in these weird, supposedly sexy positions. And then when he actually makes a choice for one, it opens up and she's sitting there and she's like, I don't even know what to describe. It's like she's molded. She's old. She's got cobwebs. Like she hasn't been used. And he's still sitting there looking like, like these women are. I was like, this is so fucking problematic. Like, why?
They've been there a while. It's like, they haven't had a chance to like switch out their inventory, I guess. She just seems like...
The fact that there's inventory like that at all, it was just, I was like, oh, I've seen this in various other movies. You always have the scenes where people go into the strip halls, and then there's the little back room where you can stick a quarter and you get to like view. That's what it reminded me of, and I was just like, it's 1980, Hanako. It's 1980. It's 1980. This was stuff that they put in movies in 1980, but it was so weird. And then, of course, while he's standing there, he gets shot at by Gelt. And now you can go into your description of Gelt, because you were not about to skip all of that.
Okay, so Gelt is a mercenary who is wanted. He said he has a bounty on every known planet. So he has all this money, he can't spend it, all this wealth. And Shad's like, well, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna waste your time. We don't have any money. All we have is, our culture. We're rich in culture. He's like, you know what? I'll take that. A meal and a place to hide.
No, what did he say before that? He said, I eat 7 serpents a week.
Yeah, that's a pretty sad life. He's living down there, with the lowest life forms, and it's just him by himself with all the money and no place to spend it.
He looked healthy for someone who was barely eating, though.
7 serpents a week. And he's like, I'm very good at what I do. So, he's like, okay, well, there we go. We got another one. Now, the interesting thing about Robert Vaughn and Gelt is he was in the Magnificent Seven playing basically the same character. and if you've ever seen the Magnificent Seven, not the recent one, but the one with Robert Vaughn in it, you would hear a lot of the lines that Gelt has are very similar to the lines he has as, I think Lee was his name. I think it was Lee in the Magnificent. He basically was repeating the same character and dialogue that he had. Roger Corman is cheap. It is what it is. And it worked.
And Robert Vaughn got paid twice for the same movie, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And who are you going to tell Robert Vaughn? You can't use those lines. It's just, really? You're going to tell Robert Vaughn not to play the same character he just played? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to let him do what he wants to do. Because at the time, Robert Vaughn was a pretty big deal. So
I feel like we missed something. Like somebody else came before him. Did he meet Cowboy first?
Cowboy was before him.
Okay, so we got Cowboy.
We did Cowboy. We did him. I don't think he met the Nestors yet. Now Earl Bowen was one of the Nestors.
Oh yeah, and the Nestors, yeah.
The Nestors, which were always for some reason my favorite, I guess because their ship was just so different. So the Nestors beam him aboard. He comes across the Nestors. They beam him aboard, and the Nestors are basically a race of clones. They say there is one Nestor. They're basically hive mind. They're the Borg. Let's call it what it is. But they're not assimilating anyone. They're just out sampling, trying to live life, and they're only interested in adventures. So they just want to be a part of it so they can experience, battle and life, because they said they're afraid they're going to be bored to death.
Let me tell you, I'm so
I love how they say they only need 4 to carry a ship, and he's like, why? Well, why are there 5? It's like, well, we always carry a spare. Like, he's a tire.
It was just awesome. I'm sorry. It was. I mean, when that scene came on, Mark says to me, "Remind you of anything?" And he's pointing at like a box set of Star Trek of TOS. He goes, "Remind you of anything?" I'm like, "Yes, I know this is Star Trek. I understand that." And he's like, "Okay, let's go back to the movie." I mean, when I say that this man was hyped to watch this movie, even though he's seen it like 19 times before, he was literally, as they were speaking, mouthing lines. Okay.
Their makeup and that fake ass looking eye on their head, that distracted me so bad.
You can thank James Cameron for that art direction.
Exactly, yeah. Way to go, James.
It was so awesome.
It was so bad.
They didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of money. And I'm sitting there thinking,
you could have gotten a kindergartner to color in that eye and cut it out and place it on their head, and it would have looked better than
I feel like that was the last
the little hood thing with their face, the makeup, right
around here. Yeah, I think the eye was a last minute addition. I don't think they planned for that.
But I just look as the movie progressed, right, and they went to the next, and it's like they kept getting weirder and freaky, and as they met each people that were going to help them, I'm like, oh, this is good. I almost burnt breakfast because they kept going to different people going, oh, I want to see this. Oh, I mean, I was transfixed.
Well, the problem is Roger Corman is not really big on he didn't direct this, but I'm sure he was there every day. He's not big on character development. And there's always been people talking about him ripping out pages of scripts because we don't have the time for this. And I felt a lot of that in this movie, but I'm sure, because the characters have no development. They are who they are. This is what they are, and we move on. We don't get a lot of backstory or background or any development. The movie's an hour and 35, hour and 41 minutes.
Hour and 41 minutes.
Yeah, not including the credits, or including the credits.
Yeah, the credits weren't that long. I mean,
they weren't that long either. So
most of the special effects people were like, "No, you ain't got to put us in the credits, man. We're good. You ain't got to do all that. I won't do all that." Yeah,
James could only do so much by himself. I mean, he really could.
So
we get the Nesters and they join. Oh, before that though, I always forget her name, but Shad told her to meet him back at Akir. Like, why didn't you just take her with you? I keep wanting to say Nutella. That's why I don't say her name. Nanelia.
Well,
and that's been for years.
You're saying Nutella. So I was just thinking, okay, but we gotta talk about the Zyme, the protein cloud of different colors that tried to consume Nanelia's ship, and then she's rescued by Cayman and the Kelvins, and that whole weird
weird dynamic.
It got weirder.
So Shad told her to meet him, and she had to go through the Lambda sector.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's going through the Lambda sector, her defenseless ship, she gets attacked by a cloud of something. And she gets rescued by Cayman of the Lambda sector, who's this reptilian looking dude. He brings her on his ship. He bounds her. I'm sorry, because there was this thing where there was a viewfinder pack of this, where the viewfinder thing.
Yeah. Oh my god.
In the marketing materials, and one of them was an image of a bondage image of her with Cayman, which is very interesting.
That's her and not Sybil Danning. I mean, that seems like something more Sybil would be.
No.
So my question was, okay, the reason he brought her onto the ship because while her ship was being consumed by the Zyme, which is the colorful cloud protein monster, whatever it is, he shoots it and she gets knocked out. So she was knocked out.
She was knocked out while it was attacking.
Yeah. So, but she was still unconscious when she was on the ship, because we see her and she's bound and she's hanging from the ceiling. Now my daughter looked and she said, "Okay, one, if she's unconscious, how is she holding on to the beam above her?" And then two, usually if you're and those of you who are just listening, you cannot see what I'm doing, but I'm holding my hands above me like I'm being bound from above. Usually if you're unconscious, your head is going to be dangling. Her head was just straight up and she was just sitting there, and then she wakes up and she's just like, "Oh, what's good?" I was like,
details. You don't need all that. You pay attention to the wrong thing. You're looking at the wrong thing. Look at those stuff. Don't look at that.
Okay, so let's talk about these Kelvins then. These little creatures who apparently communicate with heat.
Oh God.
Yes, the Kelvins, later we learned that they do not have ears for an important scene.
Michaela was like,
communicate
how do they hear?
In degrees of heat.
So how did they hear? Because they were sitting there talking to them and giving them instructions.
I think they were
They were telling
again details. Again, pay attention to the wrong thing.
No, the Nestor are telepathic. I don't know if but I would assume maybe the Kelvins are telepathic, but it's probably not, since they communicate in temperature. So I guess they gauge they read the room. That's how they communicate.
No way. No.
So, but the Kelvins are appropriately named Kelvin because of the Kelvin scale, because of the heat thing, which naming conventions really, Nestor, Nutella, Shad.
Her name is not Nutella. It's not.
And their names were, I know you wrote this down. I know you wrote their names down, Mike. Thorum and I can't remember the other one's name, but they're like Jewish gods or Jewish mythological things. It's like Gelt's name is Jewish for gold, which is,
oh my God, I missed that.
Okay.
I don't know who on set was doing that. John Sayles wrote the script, was the screenwriter, and John Sayles, has written a ton of really good things. the brother from another planet.
Everybody's got to start somewhere. Everybody's got to start
brother from another planet. He wrote
Classic.
that. The Howling, 8 Men Out, just to name a few. So I'm sure at the time he was, starting out, trying to get it right.
Okay, so
anyway, so she joined. So Kamen is, when he finds out what they're doing, Kamen is like, okay, well, he knows who Sador is. Sador wiped out his people, and he's like supposed to be the last one of his kind left. So of course he and the Kelvins are going to join because he wants his revenge.
You forgot his Hercules looking bodyguard or what? Somebody he had. Yeah, whoever that was.
I forgot his.
You only see him in like a couple of scenes. I think the next time you really see him, he's throwing a spear at one of the enemies. But I was like,
look,
I have the poster up here behind me on the LCD screen. He's actually on the poster with his spear, and with the rest of the cast. I'm like, you weren't really that important.
He didn't even have a line. He didn't even open his mouth.
Look, the way he introduced. I'm making a funny here. The way he introduced him, that was his boo. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's Gels." I was like, okay. I'm sorry, it's just that's the way it seemed like. Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, that's my boyfriend." I mean, seriously, it was so abrupt and so fast. And like you said, he shows up like one other time. I'm sorry,
and that's it.
And that's it.
Okay, so we gotta talk about Saint X-Men now.
So now, Shad is, flying around, and he gets attacked by this little bumblebee type ship that's flying around. And, Nell is like, oh, they just want to play. He's like, I don't have time for this. And we're introduced to a Valkyrie, Saint X-Men, played by the beautiful Sybil Danning.
Yep, the Sybil Danning of Skinamax fame, of the many things that I've watched in my youth.
I was gonna say, you sound very excited about that, Mike.
I saw her. I was like, oh shit, I remember her. Like Sybil, it's like Skinamax was a very important part of my, of my middle and high school years. Like most guys, come on now. Stop looking at me like that, and you know good doggone well you watch Skinamax too. You are not doing that to me.
I grew up in the country. You only had 3 channels. I don't know what you're talking about.
Whatever. No, yeah. But
Anthony was probably one of those people. You know how you have the back then it was like the fuzzy screen, but if you turn the knob just the right way, you could kind of clear the image up just a little.
No, I had antenna. I only had
that's why you can tell who did that because they all have glasses.
I didn't have cable. I didn't have cable till I was graduating high school. I never spent any weekends at my cousin Trell's house watching anything like what you're talking about. That never happened. He
called him out. Oh God, he called him out. But okay, so when we're introduced to her,
Valkyrie,
first of all,
Saint X-Men,
why does she look like she had like her headpiece was like styrofoam and glitters? It looked like something that was done in a 2nd grade art classroom.
Heavy Metal Magazine.
James Cameron.
That was straight out of Heavy Metal Magazine.
They didn't have money. They didn't have money to do all the things that you're asking about.
I mean, look at it's like you can't have a really gorgeous crown when everything else is made of styrofoam, cardboard, and duct tape. I mean, how's that going to look?
I'm more concerned the fact that when we first meet her, she's sort of, what would be the word for it? Elevated, sort of. Like she's laying on like a chair.
She's reclined.
Why is her ship's cockpit designed that way for her to be laying down?
Right.
But that's problematic in and of itself. However, I was surprised, Hanako, you didn't say her headpiece was made up of more material than her costume.
Well, I was getting to that because I don't have a problem with her costume because if that's what your battle gear is, that's fine. The problem I had with her costume was the way that it was designed, because there were certain parts of course. So her costume is like this real short, skimpy, there's like cutout pieces. And I don't have a problem with that. the problem that I had was the way that it was designed. It was weird because obviously they have a lot of her cleavage out. They have, cutouts showing parts of her boobs, but the way one side was cut, it's like it exposed the middle part of her breast and covered the bottom, so it looks like she has no nipple. It was just so weird.
I think they were trying to hide. They were trying to make sure they didn't show more than what they were supposed to.
Okay, but the way that I guess because, like I said, the way that the part of the costume there that was exposed, it would have gone right across where her nipple was supposed to be, but where they had it covered, it was either way up top. No, this is the second one.
Oh, you're on the second costume. Well, I can't. I have no comment on the second costume.
Well,
that costume I'm surprised the costume was able to stay on her the way that it did.
I mean, the other one was basically two hands holding her up. So it's like, it just had like the kung fu grip on her breasts.
Boobs. Yeah.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. Beyond the second one was like straps.
Mm-hmm.
But they used the staple of the late 70s, 80s, and they used the black spandex. I mean, don't forget they had bolts and bolts of that material back then.
And like I said, I don't have a problem with the actual way the costume looked. I mean, because you think about the way that they design costumes for women, like, okay, women are going into battle, but the men have all the armor and stuff, but the women are supposed to be exposed and scantily clad, and this is how they're supposed to fight. Okay, it's the 80s. I understand that's how they used to design, but it was just it's like the strategic parts of the costume that were there. They didn't make any sense from a female standpoint.
You're like, wait, it's covering a spot where you think her nipple is, but her nipple anatomically would not be there.
Okay,
right?
See that I guess that would be the thing. It's like it's not where ours are, but it's like it was covering her under boob and her top boob, and it was exposed in the middle. It was just really weird, a weird design. And I was just like,
But can we talk about?
I love how this turned into an anatomy class, like discussing nipple.
Right. So we're going to move on from there. Can we? Because I know Hanako really wants to talk about how Shad addressed Valkyrie in such a dismissive and misogynistic way. Like, we don't need you. You're small. You can't fight. I mean, why are you even bothering me?
Okay, so yes, that was a problem, but at the same time, I will say, I couldn't blame him because she came into this playing a fucking game. This dude is trying to go save his people, and you want to play hide and go seek in space. We ain't got time for that. And then the way that I don't know, something about her character, the way her character is written, it's like she's supposed to be this, from this proud race of warriors, but they made her sound like a ditz. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those weird things. Like, she's supposed to be all powerful, but she sounds like she doesn't really have much going on in her head.
Like her conversation with Nutella.
Oh God. The conversation about sex. That when I tell you, when she was describing that, Michaela was turned to the back of the couch on her phone, and she started hearing the description. She was like, oh my God, what the fuck? What? I said, she's talking about sex, not battle. And then she says sex, and I was like, both of us were like, oh, really? Really?
Like, for those, if she said that, because there are some people that were watching and not know that she was talking about sex, so they just had to make sure that they knew she was talking about sex.
It was so cringeworthy.
If you were watching that and did not know she was talking about sex, then you probably don't need to be watching that.
But she said, I will rearrange his whatever and do this and that. I'm like, wow.
Okay. I started to write it down so that I could read what it said, and I was like, I cannot let that come out of my mouth. It's so poor. Oh my goodness.
It was so bad. And then she throws in the don't worry, I'll teach you or whatever stuff. And I'm going, really? I mean, first of all, they made her sort of like a very dumbed down, sexed up fembot from a $6 Million Man, for one thing. The other thing is that I think that when they have characters in these movies like this, they want to show women to be warriors, but at that time that these films were made, they still couldn't get over the sexual component of the character, so they made them like that. I mean, if you look at any movie from this time, none of the women were badass. I mean, you didn't get badass women until like Terminator. I mean, really. I mean, this was probably the best you were going to get, especially with the Roger Corman film.
I mean, Princess Leia was pretty badass.
Princess Leia, but that was the exception versus the rule.
Yeah.
And also, you're not that far away as far as her being sexualized. You're not that far away from Captain Kirk and Green Alien Ladies. But
this is
I
true.
digress.
This is true.
And plus, it's like, I mean, Sybil Danning is just basically just talking about what she knows. It's like, you know.
I do. The funny thing though, and it's not even funny, but like at the end of the conversation when she says, "Stick with me, you'll get an education." Like, what does she mean by that?
No, the other funny line that came as they were going out into battle, and Shad and Anelia were in the ship together. She was asking him about teaching, will you show me the ropes? Basically asking him to teach her about sex. And she says, I think she said something about, is it just the two species or two genders or something? He was like, man and woman. Yes. And she says, well, on such and such planet, it takes three. Michaela and I fell out laughing. She was like, see, it's not so far-fetched that there's more than two genders. Oh my God, we were cracking up laughing at that because she was like.
But then after that, she says, your torque wrench has slipped its groove. He's like,
but she wasn't even because they were kissing, and then she says this all of a sudden. He's just like, huh? And she's talking about like an actual piece of machinery. Right. So I was like, okay, I guess the kiss wasn't all that great for her.
But the sexual innuendo though, your torque wrench has slipped its groove.
It was very heavy in this film. Okay, let me go to another part that I have a problem with on two fronts. So while Shad is out gathering these mercenaries to come and protect his planet, there are two of the what was Sador's group called again?
Maomori.
There were two Maomori in a ship that was supposed to be watching the planet. You know exactly where I'm about to go.
I was going to get
so while they're watching the planet, there is a ceremony taking place down on the ground, a bonding ceremony so that these two people can procreate. Okay. They're looking at this ceremony. They're like, ooh, women, let's go get some. We want to have some fun too, or whatever. So they go to the planet, they beam up Shad's sister. And later on, when they're in the thick of battle, one of them, the pilot, is telling the other one to come help him. He's like, I'm kind of busy right now. So when he finally comes up front, he's putting his clothes together, obviously, giving us the impression that he's back there having his way with Shad's sister. Shad's sister comes up to the front and she's disheveled, her clothes are torn, and she starts messing with the console so that they can't, control anything. And Gelt blows up the ship. Okay, not knowing that Shad's sister is on it. But here's the thing that really gets me, aside from the fact that they just kidnapped this woman and was just having their way with her, whatever. Nobody ever tells Shad that his sister was kidnapped and he doesn't realize that she has been killed. They never mention her, not once Shad gets back to the planet.
I think that page was ripped out of the script that day. So.
Because I said, is nobody going to tell Shad that the reason why they're scared to come and greet these new people is because his sister was abducted and she's gone, and they don't. Not one word. He doesn't even ask about his sister when he comes back. Doesn't ask about her.
I don't remember them saying that was for his sister, but
at the very beginning, when they were having their little council around the table, and Shad volunteers to go look for the mercenaries, and Zed says something to him about, you're too young, boy. And she says, my brother is the only one who can fly Zed's ship.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know. I think that page got ripped. The whole scene was sort of unnecessary because Gelt was going to blow this ship up anyway. So we already knew the Malmori were terrible people. You didn't really have to reiterate that point.
Right.
But yeah, it is what it is.
Right.
The
but
overall
I had a problem with that. Like
sexualization.
you take the character and you obviously you make it obvious that her character is being sexually assaulted. Yeah. And then you kill her off and nobody ever says anything about her for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, the sexualization of women and objectification of women in this movie is problematic. But again, it's 1980. Mm-hmm. We are more aware and conscious of that type of thing.
Yeah.
Even though it still goes on a little bit now. But this movie is, despite its faults and having that problem, I find it still has some value.
It was a fun movie, but it was just, again, me not having watched it back then, it wasn't like, it didn't have a nostalgic feel for me. So all I could do was just look at it and laugh like, oh my God, movies have come so far since 1980s. But it was a fun movie. But I mean, the problematic parts I knew were going to be problematic because, like you said, it was filmed in the 1980s, and a lot of the attitudes about how they treated women in film back then they simply would not be acceptable today. But still, it's like looking at it, you see just how bad it was, and it's just kind of like, oh, it's so cringeworthy.
Right. Like, speaking of George Papard, it's just like Breakfast at Tiffany's. Like, Breakfast at Tiffany's is a great movie, but it has so many problems, hugely problematic scenes with Mickey Rooney pretending to be an Asian gentleman and relying on a heavy like Asian accent that was like borderline. It was borderline like a hate. His role was basically a hate crime. Like, it was just terrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like the rest of the movie like had great value. Like, Audrey Hepburn's performance was awesome. George Papard was outstanding in that movie. But it's like there are like problematic themes in it, and it's just like, like you said, it just shows how far movies have come. Like, as far as like not showing like people in garbage roles like that.
Mm-hmm. Why do I feel like we forgot somebody that was part of the mercenary team? Did we get
the lizard guy? The lizard guy.
No, we talked about Cayman.
We got
Valkyrie, we got Cayman, we got the two Kelvins, we got the Nestors, we got Cowboy.
Okay, I guess we did.
And Galt. Everybody. Yeah, that's it.
And the Nelia.
Yes, her name is not Nutella.
I have a problem too. I have a problem with the whole enemy portion of this movie. Like, I have a problem with wasn't it John Saxton's character saying that, okay, we're gonna take over your world and destroy everything. We'll be back in 7 days. Then he's just like, to prove his like might, he goes and obliterates another planet, doesn't he? Like in
Unmetal or Unmetal?
Yes, but he did that because he sent an emissary to that planet, and they sent the emissary back in ashes. So that's why he destroyed that planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, he was like, you're like, you know what? I'll be back in 7 days. Then I'm gonna destroy your planet. Like, who? Like, why? It's like, and then he only had 25 ships, and he's over here taking over everything. He had
because he has ships. A Star Destroyer. He has a Death Star. He can blow up your whole planet.
The Death Star had hundreds of TIE fighters on that ship.
Yeah, it was a moon.
Hundreds. He had 25 ships, and he already lost one.
He
already lost one, and it's like
he can't conquer the whole galaxy. So he's basically like this guy who goes around and threatens planets to take all their resources. He's a gangster. He's not a conqueror or whatever. He's just really a gangster and a bully who wants to live forever. That's all he is.
Here's the other thing. Akir's I guess it was like their weapon system or their alarm system. Why did the alarm go off? Like the alarm went off. They looked at the alarm and then all of a sudden this huge ass ship is just all over the planet, like completely covering them. I'm like, what kind of warning system is that? Like it was literally 2 seconds. And then the whole ship was above the whole village, whatever you want to call it. I was like, they didn't get no warning. And then they're just standing there just looking at it like, what?
Yeah, it's basically like a smoke alarm when you wake up and there's already smoke in the room. It's like you could have warned me. Like, yeah, that was funny as all get out. They were just like, and then, oh my God, that scene, everybody getting shot and falling down was the most.
That second dude
I was like,
fell
wait a minute.
And then fell over into the hole and was kind of
like, oh, no.
So over dramatic.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. I was like, oh my
classic.
God.
The a lot of those scenes are fun. Where Sador takes Nestor's arm and installs it on himself. But it's funny because he asks the Nestor, he catches a Nestor, and the Nestor is like, oh, he captured one. We'll hear it.
How did he capture him?
And sees. I have no freaking
They
clue.
said he volunteered. The Nestor volunteered to be captured.
But how?
So that they could.
I never saw him get captured.
They never showed it.
I think that page got ripped out of the script as well. So
wait a minute.
so he's like, how are you with pain? And that's just like, I'm not well with pain at all.
At all.
He's like, okay, this is my pain guy. He's going to get the information out of you. I'm like, he just told you he don't do well with pain. They cut his arm off and he dies.
Was it just me? Or were those blades made of pink tissue paper?
No, it was paper. That was 100% paper. They were 100% made of paper. There's no way that was made of anything solid.
James Cameron, he could only work with what he had. He did the best he could.
That's why it had to go so fast. So you could like develop a paper cut and cut your way through like with the world's worst paper cut, just like.
But
and then of course they start controlling the arm.
Yeah, so Sador has the doctor install Nestor's arm on him. And of course the Nestors can kind of control each other. So they were gonna try to have him off himself with a knife, which is an interesting scene. But
like how did they know where his knife was?
Well, they would have
I'm
seen
surprised
it.
they didn't have their arm go like this, like wait here.
No, remember they saw everything.
I was gonna say they saw everything through the other Nestor's eyes, so the other Nestor would have seen it before it died.
Yeah,
but I guess that's why they keep a spare.
I guess exactly. It's spare tire.
He just sacrificed the spare. We'll be okay.
Speaking of special effects,
hold on. Why would you design a ship that requires 4 people to fly it? Why would you do that?
It's called the Tartarus.
Why would you do that? But anyway,
I'm just saying, it's called the Tartarus.
I don't know. I to be honest,
it was fun. I always, even now, like even today watching it, I was sitting there on the edge of my seat. Are they going to be able to do it? Are they going to be able to do it? Yep. It's like, help me, cut it off. I always get excited about that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes.
I was so transfixed. Like I said, I almost burnt breakfast because I just kept watching. I kept getting sucked in. I kept watching. And it's like at the end, I was like, okay, I got to go do this. Or I'm going to, you get sucked in that last half and you're just like, oh, are they going to do it? And then, as each one of them does their heroic, bid for the movie, it's like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is real. Here's my thing. And I firmly believe this. If we had not had Star Wars in 77, I believe that this movie could have been a huge hit. I really believe that because it's actually a solid movie. That's at least my 2 cents.
I guess I could see that. Also, shout out to the pilot of one of the Memories, the fighter pilots. He looked like Daft Punk, like hitting an NPC player. Like he was just like sitting there. He was like, I kept expecting to hear harder, better, faster, stronger. I was like, wait a minute, what the hell is he doing? Like, how do you fly a ship like that? And it's just like what's the name? The Valkyrie, like laying there. I'm wondering if Sybil Danning had it written in her script that when she was in her ship that she had to breathe heavily and like have heavy breaths and move her body like this while she was flying and doing all this other stuff just to like show that she was who she was. I was just like, because every time you saw her, she was just laying back like
she looked really, really comfortable in her ship. That's all.
She was very comfortable in her ship.
She looked really comfortable.
I was just confused. Like, why is she reclined back like that? Like she's sitting there and the whole time she's not really doing anything else up until the time right before she blows everything up, within her vicinity so that she can, she sacrifices herself and goes out in this big, beautiful death. And she takes, I think, a couple of memorial ships with her. But she's sitting there the whole time kind of, it's almost like you see people, how they end up flat against the back of their seat when the ships are going at warp speed, like they're going so fast they just can't move. That's how she was the whole time in her ship.
Well, you may have answered the question. They may have thought this through because her ship is built on speed, and maybe being in that position is good for quick movements and whatnot. I don't know. Also, okay. It's Sybil Danning laying down on her back.
Okay, I'll take that. The other thing that was so funny to me as far as special effects go, because some of the special effects in this film, I know it was the 80s, but oh my goodness, like some of it was like really, really bad.
They didn't have money.
I know.
They didn't have the money. He had to do it himself. James Cameron was on his own.
So when the Kelvins are they're using their heat to destroy that sonic tank that's emitting the sonic frequencies that's causing everybody to, have problems with their hearing. And they turn around and they emit the same heat towards some of the soldiers. The little dots that was this.
That was so bad.
It was awesome. It was so bad. It was awesome.
That was awesome. No, I agree with Lori. Awesome. It was awesome. It was.
I had to pause the TV. I had to pause the TV because I had tears coming out of my eyes because I was laughing so hard. Like, what the fuck is this? What? And then they just fall down because they've expended all of their heat. Oh my goodness.
And they take them to a protein bath.
Back to tank.
Back to tank.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's what I got making the list. That's what I got on my phone. I start making lists. Okay. I called it, old man dies a terrible death or he dies of a heart attack. Checking it. Next scene, there it was. I mean, it was so good. I mean, like I said, I got sucked in. And it kept getting worse, and it kept getting cheesier and cheesier. And I'm going, oh, this is the greatest movie ever.
When the Memorial soldiers were shooting at the Akir people, and the Akir people are jumping over the laser.
And they missed. One guy didn't even get hit by laser being killed over dead. I mean, come on.
Hey, there's precedent. There's precedence for this. The stormtroopers never hit anything.
I know.
But to see them jumping. Awesome. To see them jumping to avoid the lasers, that was just funny.
That was hysterical.
Because the lasers weren't hitting anything anyway.
No, they weren't.
They weren't.
Yeah. It was so
even when they were fighting in space, like y'all should have hit that Valkyrie so many times, and her ship is just going like there's no evasive maneuvers being used. And you guys can't hit. How the hell are you going around dominating planets if you can't even hit a single ship?
Yeah. I mean, there's precedent. There was 2 Star Wars movies that showed you that the Empire, the evil people cannot shoot straight. That is a trope in all science fiction.
Oh my
goodness. Just can't.
Also, when they brought forth the sonic tank, like when you see the first guy fall down holding his ears, and it's like, then you see blood gushing out of his ears, and no one else had blood gushing out of his ears. Like George Papard was just like, that's loud. Why is that so loud? Like you see anything, everyone, it's like you have one guy with blood like pouring out.
He was closer to it. That's why.
Of course, yes, that's exactly.
Oh, and let's talk about the green quote unquote blood when Cowboys.
I swear his hand was already covered with blood before he stabbed him, right? I think it was. I was like, I don't remember this. Did they add this scene later? Because I don't remember this part.
And then, here's the other funny thing. So when they're on Sador's ship and he tells them to bring out what was the name of the big weapon? What was it?
The solar
celestial.
It was a stellar something. But anyway, when he's telling them to lower the shields and ready the weapon, the controls were those little globe things that you used to get at the Sharper Image, and it's like as you move your hand over in the light.
I love those.
Just 1980s. I just gotta remember. I mean,
late 70s, to be honest with you, because filming started probably in 79.
Right. So I'm sitting here giving you a hard time, Anthony, but the movie was fun, but oh my goodness. Michaela was looking and she said, "You tell Mr. Liggins that you are a good friend." For watching this. And then she said, wait, she says, this like one of his favorite movies, because I would feel bad if I'm sitting here panning it and it's like one of his absolute favorites. She said, but it's so bad. But she doesn't really care for like sci-fi in general. So anything that takes place in space, she just looks at it like, okay, I don't get it. It's just not her genre. But she was like, you tell him you are a good friend for watching this so he can talk about it on the podcast. You are a good friend. You tell him I said
that's called the stellar converter.
That.
And then of course you have George Papard doing the I'm gonna go self-sacrifice myself. He's like, you're pretty, kisses her and then walks off. I'm like,
I lost it. He goes, no. What he does, he kisses her and he says, you pretty
thing.
And then he walks away. Oh my god, it was so good. And
the part where he's smoking and Shad says, "Are you putting smoke into your body?" He's like, "Yep." And let me tell you something, it's not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Like the PSA, I was cracking up, but what was so bad? It's 1980, so he actually really probably was smoking at the time.
All of them were probably smoking on set.
He was probably drinking scotch.
But you didn't see all the smoke in Robert's Guilt ship, right?
Yes.
You did. Yeah, he was smoking.
Yeah.
He was literally smoking in between takes.
But Guilt at the next scene when Guilt, says whatever, and he walks out, and Robert Vaughn sort of is in the middle of like the staging area, and he looks up, and he's got that "I'm gonna be a hero" look on his face. All he needed to do was put his hands on his hips and go, "Yes, I am a defender," and it would have been good.
No, let me tell you what was the funny thing about Gelt's character. When Gelt was dying at the end, and he started.
Yeah, we need to let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. All that other talk about being stoic and being a cold killer, and then he starts dying. He's like, and then when he dies,
because he's dying on this planet.
He goes like, he puts his lips back together, like, okay, I'm good.
And then when they were getting ready to bury him, Michaela says, "Is he still breathing? I can see him."
Again, you're paying attention to the wrong thing. This is a little thing. You're paying attention to the wrong thing.
The thing she should have been paying attention to is when Shad said, "Go fix a meal."
We're gonna bury him
with it. And the guy looks at him like, What?
Yeah.
It was like, that was our arrangement. So I'm gonna get this man his meal. I don't know when he's gonna eat it, but at least he can't say I reneged on my.
Exactly. Hey, John Boy was a real one for that. I gotta give him his props for that. He's a man of his word.
You mean Shad?
Shad, yeah.
Shad.
John Boy.
Shad John.
Now I the one thing, well, there's a lot of things, but the main thing that I was sort of upset about was how Zed went out. I thought that was like the lamest way for Zed the Corsair to be killed, considering he told us he was a warrior and whatnot. But it's like, is he supposed to be blind?
Yes.
Or not?
I know, right?
I'm just saying,
Yes.
there were times when you're like, you ain't blind, dude. Stop playing.
He was blind.
Yeah,
because I wondered that at the beginning.
That was it was a rhetorical question. I was just saying he didn't convince me too much. But I thought he went out in the bad way. I didn't appreciate how they killed him.
Yeah. No, the two kids who approached Gelt. Excuse me, sir. Are you a bad man?
Oh God. Oh God.
Were you a bad man when you were a kid? I was never that little.
That's like your Saturday morning cartoon line.
As a me, did the Space Cowboy remind me a little bit of Randy Quaid's character in Independence Day?
Oh.
Yes. Yes, it did. Yes. But
I was just waiting for him to say, yours.
And then we get the respite in the middle after the initial battle. Everyone's injured. They're caring for their hurt and injured. But there's a battle going on. They need to get back to it. Yeah.
Well, I guess they figured the defenders that came to help protect their planet were going to do that. But
we needed to have Sybil Danning's costume change. So she needed to show up in her new costume.
Oh, yeah.
So gratuitous ass shot.
That's what that was for.
Mm-hmm. She literally marched in, walked up to him, stood in front of the camera for 3 seconds, and then they cut away just for that shot.
Hey, look, she had a good agent. She put that shit in her contract. What you gonna do? That's what you got to do.
I think it's bullshit, though, that everybody who came to protect the planet died, except for the people who were actually living on the planet, or I should say Shad, and then by default, Nanelia, because she was on the ship with him. But everybody else who he recruited is gone.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, but isn't that sort of the way Magnificent Seven actually went down?
Yeah,
pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the sudden end to the movie after Shad makes his big little speech about all the people who died and what Varda says about them living on through the people that they've touched. And I was like, so they will always live within us. And then he said something similar.
Credits.
And then credits. We were like,
ended.
Damn.
Done.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was problematic. I think those pages got ripped out too.
There was no end. There was no wrap up. There was no, they live to see another day, or
we don't know if the Kelvins are still alive.
They're chilling in the protein bath in the back tent.
Yeah, because what's his name? The lizard was busy sacrificing himself and like
oh God,
not expecting that sound.
He sacrificed himself literally for nothing. I mean, I know he taken out a few shots, but
his battle scream and Saint Xman's battle scream, like, what the hell was that?
It was like, can you give a roar? Like, just be like, ah! You say he was like,
it was
like,
awesome.
wait a minute.
Even her scream, she was like, ah! Michaela said they couldn't get her to make a like, real scream.
He's a whole reptile. He's a whole reptile space alien, and he's gonna sound like a damn smoke alarm. No, that's not how it is.
And then Sador's little disclaimer at the end, like, you doing all of this, you killing all these planets and killing all these people because you want to live forever? Really? Really? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Another favorite scene is the Kelvins. They're all sitting around the Kelvins like they're a campfire.
Oh God, with the hot dog.
Roasting the hot dog. What is that? It's a hot dog. I detect no dog in that.
There's no dog in here.
And then they go on to list all of the artificial ingredients. And Cowboy says, yeah, that's what we call meat on Earth.
I don't know about y'all. I got kind of hungry. I was like, oh, damn, I want a hot dog now.
No, the fact that they used the Kelvins as a campfire was just perfect.
That was perfect. But did they have to sit there and mumble to kind of maintain the right temperature? I mean, if that's how they communicate. They're telling the story.
Oh my god!
No.
Awesome.
The part where a couple of people were actually warming their hands. Oh my god!
It was great.
So good.
It was great.
It was so good. Oh god. I'm sorry, Anthony, but this was like the best movie ever.
I'm gonna wrap up my part in this by saying I know this movie has some problems, but I do enjoy watching it from time to time. There are things that I do like about it. I can remember growing up, and among the two things that I did the most when I was in the house by myself was, one, pretend to be Doctor Who. In every room in the house was a different section of the TARDIS where I was traveling through time. And the other one was my bedroom. I was inside the Corsair, and there was my ship, and I would fly around. Those two memories are the things that I remember the most about that time of my life. And that's why this movie has a special place for me.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, that's
those
awesome,
are good
dude.
memories to have.
I could go along with that. Like, I was just,
that's dope.
I really like went back to, it's like I could actually see like the Last Starfighter like coming up next. I feel like I could see like coming up next, Last Starfighter, like when the credits were rolling. I mean, it's always good to go back and see things, because it's like, it's a callback to easier times, and it's like this movie was just. I mean, we tease it, rightfully so, but it was. I mean, for the time, for when we were watching it, it was a fucking great movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like anytime it came on, it was basically our kids, like my version of Shawshank. Like, when Shawshank comes on, wherever you're doing, you sit the fuck down, you watch that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like when this movie came on, I sat my ass down and I watched this movie.
This awesome. Movie, The Last Starfighter and Enemy Mine, used to come on all the time in the mid-80s.
All the damn time.
And I'm sure that there are reasons why I know this movie, it doesn't anymore. They're not going to show this movie because it has a lot of problems in it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
but
still,
it was a fun watch. It was a fun watch. I don't really go back nowadays and watch stuff from like that far back, just because, kind of like we said, a lot of stuff that was filmed back then does have problematic themes and things that, of course, will not be acceptable in this day and age. And a lot of times I just don't go back and rewatch stuff because I want to keep the nostalgia, I guess pure in that sense for me. Like, I want to remember how I felt watching it the first time without knowing any better, just enjoying it for what it was. But if I go back and look at some of the stuff now, it's kind of like, oh, that's really problematic. Like, I mean, there's lots of films like that. I don't go back and watch The Breakfast Club. There's other certain movies that I just don't go back and watch because of that. But this was still fun to watch, and just knowing that you guys knew what parts I was going to have a problem with, and just
it was obvious. It was way obvious.
They're really obvious.
Yeah.
And then also too, just the stupid parts that I knew we were all going to be laughing and teasing about, because they were just so funny, and just so, like you said, Lori, it's corny, it's cheesy, but it's also funny still, because we know what the intent was with it, and maybe they didn't intend it for it to be as funny then as we find it now. But I mean, I didn't hate it. You know what I'm saying? It's not one of those movies where I was like, oh my God, I would never watch this again, blah, blah, blah. I mean, some of those movies you watch over and over because of the cheese factor and because of how ridiculous it is. It's like, It's one of those things that you could put on and you could just make fun of it, and it immediately changes your outlook for the day because you're in a good mood. That's how I felt about this film. I mean, it was hilarious.
Oh, also, like, I know I was just watching it again, watching the end part where his ship was exploding. He's like, no. So he's like, we're all gonna die. He's like, that can't be. I'm gonna live forever. With his one arm having ass. It was just like,
then he was like,
I'm gonna live forever.
I want to live. I want to live forever. I was like, not happening today, bro.
That was very Battlestar Galactica right there. It really and truly was. I mean, I'm talking original. Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you guys for allowing me to indulge in one of my guilty pleasures. Because, like I said, I watch it every couple of years.
No, bro, this was awesome.
I had a blast.
Yeah. This was just crazy. I love this movie.
It was a lot of fun. So, let's see. So I think for the most part, we're caught up on our birthday episodes from last year. I think we still need to do Casey's, but I don't know if we're going to get around to hers because now it's time for us to start doing our birthday episodes for this year. So far we've got Mike, whose birthday was a couple of weeks ago. And then Lori is celebrating her 50th birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
I'm old.
Yo.
Whatever. So Mike and Lori, do you have an idea of what we're going to be discussing for your episodes this year?
Yes, I've decided that we're going to do Real Genius for mine just because I wanted to do it last year. And the only thing that almost foiled it was that I saw that Fanboys was for free on certain other things. I was going to do that. And I was like, I really want to do Real Genius. So I want to do Real Genius for mine. Val Kilmer's best work, by the way.
See, I would have fought you on Fanboys. My choice is going to be something different. Mine is going to be actually a graphic novel. It's going to be DC has this thing called Crisis. There's Infinite Crisis and there's like Final Crisis. But the one I'm going to do is called Identity Crisis. And basically what it is a sort of like a murder mystery, only it's in graphic novel form. It's really good. It's my favorite one. And so, yeah, we're going to be doing a graphic novel for my birthday.
Okay. So we have those two. I don't know. My birthday is the next one, and I'm not sure yet what we're going to do. So I'll think about it and let you guys know. But, if you guys want to hear our other birthday episodes, we did Howard the Duck for Mike's birthday last year. We did Smoking Aces for mine, which I'm still editing. We had some problems with the import, so I'm trying to work those kinks out. We'll get those posted. Lori did Star Trek, what was it, Deep Space Nine?
Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Deep Space Nine, and then this one for Anthony. So you guys can go to the website and check out any of those or any of our other shows for our content. But for now, that's it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fandom Hybrid. You can watch our videos on our YouTube page, and you can find us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.